The man who sold the Eiffel Tower for scrap. It sounds like a punchline, a tall tale spun from the ether. But for a brief, bewildering moment in history, it was a very real proposition, orchestrated by a con artist so audacious, so audacious, so utterly convinced of his own brilliance, that he almost got away with it. Victor Lustig was a man of many aliases and even more schemes. Born in Austria-Hungary in 1890, he honed his craft in the smoky cafes and bustling ports of Europe, a chameleon who could adapt to any social setting. His early life was a tapestry of petty crimes and elaborate deceptions, each one a stepping stone towards a grander, more audacious goal. He was a master of disguise, a silver-tongued orator, and possessed an uncanny ability to read people, to identify their desires and exploit their weaknesses. He'd already pulled off a number of impressive cons, including convincing people that he was a wealthy industrialist and even selling a fake version of the Eiffel Tower itself. But his masterpiece, the one that would etch his name into the annals of infamy, was yet to come. It was the spring of 1925. Paris, the city of lights, was still recovering from the ravages of World War I, and its iconic Eiffel Tower, once a symbol of national pride and technological prowess, was beginning to show its age. Rust gnawed at its iron latticework, paint peeled like sunburnt skin, and the once gleaming structure seemed to sag under the weight of time. The city council, facing mounting repair costs, was considering dismantling the monument. This was the perfect storm for a man like Victor Lustig. Lustig, ever the opportunist, saw not a decaying landmark, but a golden opportunity. He meticulously researched the situation, poring over official documents and discreetly observing the bureaucratic machinations surrounding the tower's fate. He learned that the city was indeed contemplating its demolition, and that the cost of removal was a significant concern. This information became the bedrock of his most audacious plan yet. He began by forging official-looking stationery, complete with the letterhead of the French Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs. He then penned a series of letters addressed to a select group of prominent Parisian scrap metal dealers. In these letters, he presented himself as a high-ranking government official tasked with the sensitive and highly confidential matter of the Eiffel Tower's disposal. He explained with convincing detail that due to its deteriorating condition and the immense cost of maintenance, the government had made the difficult decision to sell the tower for scrap. He emphasized the secrecy of the operation, citing the potential for public outcry if the news were to leak prematurely. The letters, dated May 12, 1925, were a masterclass in psychological manipulation, playing on the dealers' greed and their desire for a clandestine, lucrative deal. One of the dealers who received this fateful letter was a man named André Poisson. Poisson, a shrewd businessman who had built his fortune in the scrap metal industry, was intrigued by the proposition. He was also, like many of his peers, deeply ambitious and eager for a deal that would set him apart from the competition. Lustig, anticipating this, had arranged for a series of clandestine meetings. Lustig arranged to meet the selected dealers at a luxurious hotel, the Hotel Continental, a place where discretion and opulence went hand in hand. He presented himself as Monsieur Dupont, a man of considerable influence within the government, impeccably dressed and exuding an air of quiet authority. He spoke with a refined accent, his words carefully chosen to instill confidence and awe. He even brought along a technical expert, a man he had hired for the occasion, who spoke with great authority about the structural integrity of the tower and the precise tonnage of iron that could be salvaged. This expert, a man named Lucien Dubois, who was actually a struggling engineer Lustig, had bribed with a small sum, provided an air of technical legitimacy to the entire charade. During these meetings, Lustig painted a vivid picture of the immense profit to be made. He spoke of the sheer volume of high-quality iron that the tower represented, estimating it at over 7,000 tons. He explained that the government, eager to be rid of the costly monument, was willing to accept a single, substantial bid for the entire structure. He even presented a detailed, albeit fabricated, breakdown of the potential revenue from selling the scrap, a figure that would have made any scrap dealer's eyes gleam. He subtly hinted that the deal was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a chance to secure a monumental contract that would solidify their reputation and their fortunes for years to come. Poisson, captivated by the prospect of such a colossal deal, was particularly eager. He saw this as his chance to dominate the market, to acquire a quantity of scrap metal that no other dealer could even dream of. Lustig, sensing Poisson's eagerness, subtly played on his ambition. He spoke of the immense pressure he was under to secure a swift and discreet sale, implying that if Poisson didn't act quickly, the deal might go to another, less discerning buyer. He even whispered that a facilitation fee, a rather substantial bribe, would be necessary to ensure the smooth processing of the contract and to maintain the necessary secrecy. Lustig then led Poisson on a guided tour of the Eiffel Tower itself. This was not a tour for tourists, it was a tour for a buyer assessing his potential acquisition. They ascended the tower, not by the public elevators, but through a series of service staircases and maintenance platforms. Lustig, with a theatrical flourish, pointed out the various sections, the rivets, the beams, all the while speaking of the iron's quality and the ease with which it could be dismantled. He gestured towards the panoramic views of Paris, as if to say, this magnificent structure, all of this iron, could be yours. He even pointed out areas where rust was particularly evident, framing it not as a problem, but as a testament to the age of the metal and its inherent value as scrap. The sheer scale of the tower, combined with Lustig's persuasive rhetoric, was overwhelming. Poisson, standing amidst the iron behemoths, felt the weight of the opportunity pressing down on him. Poisson, convinced by Lustig's elaborate performance, agreed to the terms. He presented Lustig with a substantial sum, an amount that was a king's ransom for a scrap dealer, in exchange for the ownership of the Eiffel Tower. The exact figure was a staggering 7 million French francs, a sum that represented a significant portion of Poisson's net worth. Lustig, with a triumphant smile, accepted the money, a hefty portion of which was in cash, and handed Poisson a forged bill of sale. He even arranged for a final, discreet meeting where Poisson was instructed to arrange for the dismantling and removal of the tower, a task that would have taken months, if not years, and required an army of workers and specialized equipment. With the money safely in his pockets, Victor Lustig vanished. He had pulled off the impossible, selling a national monument that was not his to sell. He was so confident in his escape that he even returned to Paris a few weeks later, intending to try the same scam again on a different group of scrap dealers. This second attempt, however, was met with suspicion. One of the dealers, having heard whispers of the first deal, contacted the authorities. When the police finally caught up with Lustig, he was apprehended in Vienna. The sheer audacity of his crime had, for a time, made it difficult for authorities to believe it was possible. The initial reports were met with disbelief, even ridicule. It was only when the investigation into the missing Eiffel Tower gained momentum, and the forged documents and testimonies of the duped scrap dealers began to surface, that the full extent of Lustig's deception became clear. Victor Lustig was eventually extradited back to France, where he faced trial. The court proceedings were a spectacle, with reporters from across the globe flocking to witness the man who had sold the Eiffel Tower. Lustig, ever the showman, maintained his composure, even displaying a certain charm during his testimony. He spoke of the inherent flaws in bureaucracy and the gullibility of men blinded by greed. He was ultimately convicted and sentenced to prison. However, Lustig's story doesn't end there. He was a master of escape as well as deception. He managed to bribe his way out of prison on more than one occasion. His final years were spent in the United States, where he continued his con artistry, albeit on a smaller scale. He was eventually arrested in New York City in 1935 for counterfeiting currency, a crime that ultimately led to his demise. He died in a federal penitentiary in Springfield, Missouri in 1947, a notorious figure whose legend far outlived him. The man who sold the Eiffel Tower for scrap. A legend, a myth, a testament to the power of a silver tongue and a brazen mind. Victor Lustig, the Count of Scams, proved that sometimes the most unbelievable stories are the ones that actually happened.